the challenges of going into a football game without your quarterback, with a guy that's been here for 3 weeks. It's a credit to everybody. It's a credit to, again, to our players and our coaching staff for putting them in a good position.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
It's the same intro as yesterday, the same comment from Matt LaFleur, for two reasons. Number one, and if I'm going to be honest with you, this is the more prominent reason. I forgot until like 3:55 to make an intro for today's show. And well, the Brewers played last night, but I don't know that anything shocking happened. And Matt LaFleur didn't say anything crazy in yesterday's presser. So that intro still works, still talking about Sunday's win. And we're still very much talking about the Packers win from Sunday. So if I'm being 100% honest with you, the intro is the same because I forgot to change it to the last minute here before the show. But also, I'll spin this. I think this intro maybe could be used throughout the week to reiterate the points. Like, yeah, we could talk about style points. We could talk about strategy. We could talk about the upcoming game with Tennessee and what's going on elsewhere around the league. But at the end of the day, the Packers just won a game with a backup quarterback. And I am not so spoiled. I am not so privileged as a Packers fan to look that gift horse in the mouth. Pardon the pun. This is the Colts. They won a game with a backup quarterback. Anyone who's whining about that, the style points, well, it should have been more. They won a game with a backup quarterback. I'm going to continue to bring that up, continue to just drive that point home this week as we talk deeper about, what's going on with the Packers and Jordan Love's return and, okay, what's the game plan and how does it change against the Titans? Okay, we have all those conversations, but the heart of the matter is the Packers won a game on Sunday with a backup quarterback. And there's been times where Rodgers has gotten hurt in the past, where they cycle through backups. It's like Seneca Wallace, wasn't it? Scott Tolzien, we got to bring back Matt Flynn. We got to cycle through it. Vince Young, all these guys. The Packers put in their first choice at backup quarterback, Malik Willis, and it worked, and they won a game. So I just want to continue to, sometimes sports aren't that hard. Sometimes they're not that complicated. In fact, a lot of the times they're not complicated. This week, we're going to talk about the nuances and the X's and O's and about what comes next, but the heart of the matter is they won a game with a backup quarterback. Let's not lose sight of that. Let's keep our eye on the ball, at least for a couple more days. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Hope you're having an excellent day. Want to talk Brewers? David Gasper, Reviewing the Brew, is going to be here in the second hour of the show. And I want to talk a little bit more Brewers because they're closing in on clinching the division. Could happen tonight if the Cubs lose. Could happen tomorrow, right? We're in a point now where if the Cubs lose and the Brewers win, it happens. So it could happen today. And I think I've underserved the Brewers a little bit the last couple of weeks as football has gotten started. And this is a problem that I have as a radio host and probably a problem that I have as a person. When I'm focused on a thing, I'm all the way focused on that thing. I have a hard time sometimes, especially with only a 2-hour show, casting a wide net. Like last night, if I was watching Monday Night Football, and I was mostly, although I had the Brewers on my laptop on mute, it's like, all right, Monday Night Football's the thing. I want to talk about that. Packers won a game with a backup quarterback. That's the thing. I want to talk about that and go all in on that and get every detail of that. Sometimes I don't like paying lip service to this and paying lip service to that. It's like, if this show is football tonight, then let's talk all about football. And I won't, half-ass a Brewers segment. But I have underserved the Brewers, I think, for the last couple of weeks. So I do want to spend some time on that tonight. David Gasper will help us out in hour number 2 from Reviewing the Brew. It's just become so obvious what works and what doesn't work for our Brewers. It's so clear and crystallized. And it should be. It's the third week of September, right? Every fan base should have a pretty good idea of how their team works, what they do and what they look like when they're playing poorly, what they do and what they look like when they're winning things, losing things. Like fan bases that follow their baseball team every day by September should have a pretty good read on their team, right? If not, either the team is terrible and makes no sense, or we're just not paying attention. We're not watching because we have so much data. We have hundreds of games now of data to draw from and to pull from and to think about when we're watching this team. When this team is winning, and this is nothing that you don't know, it's just this is the first time we've talked Brewers to begin the show very seriously in a while. When the team is winning and the offense is scoring, that's mostly what it comes down to. Pitching really, for long stretches, has not been an issue. Every once in a while they have a bad night, but this team has won and lost, I think, mostly on the bats, right? Because the pitching for the most part, has been a known commodity. That's been a given. When they're winning, they're seeing a lot of pitches. They're taking their walks. The runners are getting on and they're stealing and they're moving over and they're making productive outs. Last night, they had 2 sacrifice flies to score runs. And when all those things are happening, seeing lots of pitches, putting together good at-bats, taking walks when they're available to take, stealing bases when the bases are available to be stolen. When all of those things are happening, the big hits, the timely hits, and the home runs just kind of follow suit. Those big hits just kind of seem to fall into place when the offense is doing everything else correctly, right? It's like you have a great day at work when you've got a good night's sleep and when you packed a good lunch and when you, right? You do all the little things right. And a lot of times the big things fall into place. And that's been the case with the Brewers offense really all season. When the offense isn't working, it's a lot of quick at bats, it's a lot of pop-ups. Murphy talked about that a couple weeks ago when they lost that final game in Cincinnati and they went like the final 6 or 7 innings, including extras, I think the 10th and the 11th, just not getting any hits. Murphy said, yeah, a lot of short at bats, a lot of pop-ups where we weren't even giving ourselves a chance, right? We know what works for this offense and what doesn't. We saw the offense working last night in Philly. And what did they score? 6 runs, 6-2 is the final. Yeah. When it seemed like the game was well in hand, I focused a little bit more on the football game. I still had the game on. They scored 6 runs last night. This team goes as the offense goes. They had a good, productive, healthy night doing all the little things on offense. The pitching, I got to be honest, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, the least personal way. Just a matter of fact, I think it's a little bit of a joke that Hoby Milner is still pitching in leverage spots for this team. And I know the bullpen's been worked hard. I know that their top leverage arms weren't available last night, but they have better arms in their system than Hoby Milner. I think Mizrowski and Yoho are both better options than Hoby Milner. I think Brian Hudson, who's still in the minors, is a better option. I think they just have so many better options in the minors. It's not a matter of fatigue and who is available last night. It's who they've elected to keep on this roster and to keep off this roster in the 3rd week of September. It's September, not July. If it's July and they're trying to get Hoby Milner right, fine. It's September, and we have a really good idea of who's been good this year and who hasn't been good. Elvis Peguero had not been good. Hoby Milner really this entire season has not been good. I know it worked out for him last night coming in with runners on. I kind of don't understand how it worked out. I kind of don't understand how it worked. I'm not going to think twice about it. I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just kind of amazed, frankly. The first day of fall is this weekend, and we have a full summer, spring and summer of evidence. Hoby hasn't been good. The Peguero, up until they sent him down, had not been good. I guess, was hoping to see a little bit more urgency in the way that the roster was rounded out, especially at relief pitching. Because I think it's malpractice. I think it's baseball malpractice that Hoby Milner was the best option to come in that spot last night, given some of their other options that they have in the minors. That's just my 2 cents. I don't think it's serious. When Hoby came in last night, I'm like, this is not serious behavior. It's the 3rd weekend of September. I know it worked. And then I know Colin Rea was able to get the save, and I'm glad. I guess he's still on pace to make his start, and they just wanted to get him some work. It wasn't that different from what he would be doing throughout the week anyways, to keep fresh. That's what Murphy said. I got to be honest. 3rd week of September, I thought they would have rounded out the bottom of their pitching staff out a little bit better. I thought they'd have some different arms, and the fact that they're rolling with some of the guys they're currently rolling with makes me a little nervous about how they're valuing guys and how they're selecting around the roster. I know it worked. I know they won. I think the process is, quite frankly, I think it's a little embarrassing. You're fighting for a bye in the 3rd week of September, and Hoby Milner, who's given you months and months and months. This isn't just an anti-Hoby thing. Sometimes relievers have bad years. Sometimes they have good years. It's not personal at all. He just hasn't been a good option for the Brewers. And I know it worked last night, but I just think that was really bad process. And I think it's an indictment on how the Brewers have, again, rounded out the bottom of their roster, especially in the bullpen. It's one thing, okay, sure, well, Devin was down and Pyams was down. All those guys were down. I get it. It would be one thing if they didn't have what I believe to be better options sitting in the minors available and kind of going unused right now. But that's where we stand. So I just wanted to mention that to begin the show. If you have calls on the Brewers, we could talk more about that after the first break, but I did want to say a couple things about Eagles-Falcons Monday Night Football last night. Week 2 was great. I'm so glad that I didn't go to bed. I thought about maybe going to bed because the game was kind of lazy. There were some good plays and big, interesting names and players and teams and brands last night. And it was in Philly. I actually was one of the few people that kind of enjoyed Jason Kelsey in the booth. I saw all this anti-Philly sentiment today where it's like, oh, it was I think Kyle Brandt said today, the E last night stood for Eagles and ESPN. It's like, well, they hired Jason Kelsey and he was there. I don't know. I thought he was good in the booth. I thought it was interesting. I thought Joe Buck did a great job facilitating that conversation with Kelsey in the booth. I like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. That's America's booth. That's just me. That's not the point. The Eagles defense wasn't able to slam the door last night at the end of the game. And to be fair, the offense couldn't either. The offense had a chance to slam the door. Saquon Barkley drops that pass on a third down. They have to settle for a field goal, and that changes kind of how the end of the game goes. I would say the same thing about the Packers. If the Packers defense gave up that score in that same circumstance, I'd say, yeah, it's a bummer the defense couldn't lock it down, but let's not pretend like the offense didn't also have a chance to win this game. And I think I've been pretty consistent in saying certain things like that and making points like that as we talk about the job that Joe Barry did and other defensive coordinators is now we're trying to figure out what Jeff Hafley's going to bring to Green Bay and bring to this Packers defense. 1:05 left. Kirk Cousins leads a 6-play, 75-yard drive to score a touchdown with 34 seconds to spare. It went like this: 11-yard pass, 26-yard pass, 5-yard pass, incomplete pass in the end zone. That was a good ball and could have been called pass interference. Kind of glad that it wasn't because I think Ray McLeod was just trying to draw a flag, and I hate that. That's the NBA-ification, the NBA-ification of football, and I'm glad the ref didn't go for it, even though I feel like it might have been pass interference, but whatever. And then touchdown pass on the next play. 11-yard pass, 26-yard pass, 5-yard pass, incomplete pass in the end zone, touchdown pass. Hot knife, butter. And Vagabond John, plug your ears. I don't want to do this. I have to do this. It's too easy. The end of that game kind of felt like a spitting image, the end of a Packers game when Joe Barry was coordinating the defense. That felt so much like a Joe Barry game. And, you know, it didn't just feel like a Joe Barry game. It looked like a Joe Barry game because Joe Barry runs the same scheme. He comes from that Fangio way of thinking. And they mentioned this on the broadcast last night. Fangio likes keeping the two high safeties, kind of keeping everything in front of him. And I think you can win like that. I've said this about defenses is the Packers are moving on from Joe Barry and looking for the next guy. I said, you can win playing a lot of too high. You can win playing press coverage. You still have to have the players and you have to be able to execute, right? Scheme does not preclude or exclude a defense from being successful. It doesn't. You can win and lose with all sorts of schemes. But when you're trying to slam the door on the final possession, no pressure, no aggression, prevent defense often gives up an early completion or two, and then the offense gets rolling and the defense is on its heels. And it felt like at a certain point in that very short drive, again, that only took like 30 seconds, it kind of felt inevitable that they were going to punch it in. It's like, man, this looks easy. It reminded me so much of the end of a Packers game with the Joe Barry defense. This was the lead in Brooks Cabina's story at The Athletic last night. Quote, "This one stings and it should, : Eagles defense unravels in disastrous collapse." Felt very similar to the Giants game with Tommy DeVito last year, right? We've watched that game before. And again, the Eagles offense had chances to win it, but I contend that the Packers offense had lots of chances to win games that they didn't. They didn't slam the door on offense. They gave the defense a shot to slam the door, and the defense couldn't do it either. And we blame the defense, which the defense deserves blame, but in a lot of those games, the offense deserved blame as well. And to Vagabond John's credit, I don't know that a lot of people in Wisconsin sports talk often did a good job addressing that. I want to be fair to the Eagles offense. They messed up too. I want to be fair to the Eagles defense. They also were pretty dismal with a shot to slam the door, right? But both sides had chances. Neither one could do it. I don't have anything against Philadelphia, the city, or their sports teams or their sports fans. It's nothing personal. Some people are like, oh, Philly, that's trash sports fan base. They suck. Okay, if you feel that way, that's fine. Vikings fans, I think it's a little silly. I think we got to get over 2017 just a little bit. You showed up in their city and covered the Rocky statue with a bunch of Vikings gear, and then you got all defensive and depressed and offended when Eagles fans gave it back to you a little bit. Kind of felt like you asked for that, and that's fun. That's what sports fandom is about. We poke you, you poke us. Sometimes we win, sometimes you win. Don't dish it out if you can't take it. Vikings fans in 2017, you dished it, and then you couldn't take it when they clocked your ass on national TV in the NFC Championship game by 31 points? What was the final score? Like 38-7 or something insane like that. I have nothing against Philly. I like cheering against Nick Sirianni because he presents as kind of a tool. That Dom DeSandro guy, I think, belongs on reality TV. Like he's hunting for the camera in the post-game interview last night. Like he's angling behind Nick Sirianni to get on the camera. It's like, what is this? This is kind of a clown car. Again, it's not personal. I also like seeing the Eagles fail because their GM, Howie Roseman, bothers me. Well, he doesn't bother me. I don't know it. He doesn't do anything wrong. It's the way that people talk about him and treat him and react to every single move that he makes. Every move he makes. Every breath he takes. Football people lose their mind every single time that Howie Roseman does something. It's, oh my God. I mean, it's another stroke of brilliance. Take another step back. Another stroke of brilliance by Howie Roseman. Every single time he makes a move. Just off the dome. They got Bryce Huff this offseason. Oh, how did the league let Howie Roseman and the Eagles get Bryce Huff? Well, their pass rush is non-existent. And they can't stop the run, right? Well, they brought in Devin White, linebacker. They're a former top 5 pick. How did Howie Roseman pull that off? How did the league let Howie get Devin White? Healthy scratch last night. He didn't even play. He didn't travel because he was injured. He didn't travel to Brazil in week 1. I heard someone mention, I heard Nick Wright on the Herd today mention that Devin White is a healthy scratch. I said, no way, that can't be true. He was hurt last week. It's not like he was just a healthy scratch. I looked it up. Yeah, he's a healthy scratch. He just didn't play. Type of move, type of player acquisition that people would, oh, Howie, how'd he do that? Right? He's drafted from Georgia, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. When both of those picks happened, he can't keep getting away with this. How did Howie pull this off? They are last in the NFL through 2 weeks in yards per rush defended. Also, yards before contact are awful. Like the push that teams are getting against that front, which includes Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. 2 picks that were, oh my God, brilliant by Howie. Cooper DeJean, a brilliant pick. How did the league, how does he keep doing this? Well, Cooper DeJean only checked in late in the game because of an injury. And Vic Fangio has publicly commented that Cooper DeJean is just not ready. He's not there, which is fine. He's a rookie, but plenty of rookies play too. I'm not saying he has to be a game breaker, but most good rookies play as rookies. Not all, but most, especially when you're coming from Iowa. Turns out a lot of pros and guys who play very well quickly. Look at Sam Laporta last year. Rookie tight ends never do anything. Sam Laporta comes in, is instantly one of the most productive tight ends in football. Okay. I don't get it. I don't get it. A few weeks ago, Howie trades for Jahan Dotson, 3rd round pick. Jesus. I'm not exaggerating. This is how football people react every time Howie makes a move. How did he do this? Oh my God. They have A.J. Brown. They have DeMonte Smith. They have Dallas Goedert. Now they have Jahan Dotson. And all it cost him was the 3rd round pick, which is pretty significant in my opinion, but whatever. Last night, A.J. Brown is out. Should be more opportunities. And it was that other guy whose name I can't even remember. It was something, I'll know it when I see it. Not Cal Katera. Britton Covey. That's right. That guy's getting receptions. That guy had 6 receptions last night on 6 targets. Jahan Dotson had 1 target. He's got 2 on the season. How did Howie Roseman get Jahan Dotson? It's just, I don't get it. Howie makes a move. Everyone celebrates it like it's the most genius thing that's ever happened in the NFL, in the history of professional sports ever. And then everyone stops paying attention. Jalen Carter, unbelievable. Jordan Davis, wow, these are amazing picks. Okay, we're going to stop paying attention now. I just assume those will work out, even though they don't. So many of these moves, these lauded moves and picks and trades, they haven't worked out. But that hasn't stopped people from just glazing Howie Roseman constantly. Now, we can continue to talk about this, or we could talk Brewers. I haven't really brought the Brewers up a whole lot the last 2 weeks because we've been so Packers-centric, and for that, I am sorry. So if you have things to say about the Brewers, tonight is your night. 608-321-1670. David Gasper in hour number 2. I have some Matt LaFleur comments for you from yesterday as well that we didn't get to last night. So all that's coming up. It's the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Welcome back. Working in some Brewers talk to begin the show tonight. I also would like to talk more about Monday Night Football. I like seeing the Eagles lose. Nick Sirianni's kind of a tool. Dom DeSandro, a little bit of a clown. It's like, what's going on there? Howie Roseman gets credit for every move he ever makes, even when it seems like a lot of his most popular moves, his most celebrated and lauded moves don't even work out. So it was frustrating. And the tush push is stupid. It's so dumb. Get rid of it. Has Roger Goodell lost his fastball? 608, 321, 1670. The old Roger I knew would have cracked down on this in like a month. Wouldn't have even taken a full year, let alone 2 or 3 years. Get rid of that thing. It's dumb. It's ugly. It's boring. I don't like it. And it's gimmicky. I don't like it. So some of my opening takes on Monday Night Football. My opening takes on the Brewers. All right, it's nice to see the Brewers win a game when Jackson Churio, the 20-year-old, doesn't provide all their offense. I'm a little amazed that Hobie Milner and Colin Ray got the job done. I think it's a little bit of an indictment on the Brewers that Hobie Milner is still being asked to pitch in leverage in September. You might be thinking, well, Grant, their bullpen's been used. They're depleted. Sure. I think they have better options still. I'd rather see Mizrowski or Yoho or Hudson, who's been great all year. And when Devin Williams makes little passing remarks like, hey, man, we got a lot of good guys in this bullpen. We got a lot of guys that's helped us win games that are down in the minors, too. You don't think that was Devin Williams' way of saying, I don't know why Hudson isn't here. I don't know why we're enduring Peguero and Milner when Brian Hudson exists. Don't think for a second that's not what Devin Williams was saying the other day when he made that comment either. I know it seemed innocuous. It was like, we're so deep in the majors and the minors. That's not what he meant. He meant, I don't know why some of our better relievers are sitting down in AAA while we endure Hobie, Milner, and Peguero. Again, Hobie did his job last night. The result was fine. I think the process is an indictment on the way the Brewers have managed the bottom of their roster. 608-321-1670. Let's take some calls. Wisco Sports Show. Hello. Who's this?
Derrick Henry will be the death of us.
Hector in Alaska?
Oh, yes, sir. A huge disappointment indeed watching J.K. Dobbins just tear it up.
Why is your team 0-2? I don't think the Ravens are – sorry, I think the Ravens are a little bit like the Utah Jazz. It's like they're going to win a lot of games. They're going to put up a lot of good numbers, but when push comes to shove, I don't really trust them in big games against great teams. But Derrick Henry and the Ravens, they shouldn't be 0-2. Shouldn't be losing to the Raiders.
No. Yeah, see, the reason that we're 0-2 is because we're boring. The offense is predictable. They're not doing anything special. they have decided that now that they have a running back like Derrick Henry, that they will run a basic offense, run, pass, run, try to pass. It's BS. You have someone like Derrick Henry. You have someone like Lamar. Why are we not running more pass options? Why are we not running more, little flea flicker type actions? Like, you got the necessity, like the tools for it. They're just boring. It's annoying to watch. I have, though, been excited watching the Packers.
Well, they're fun. They're fun.
They're fun to watch.
Yeah, they are. They're not predictable because they have a plethora of skill position players who all do different things. And I think that's a little bit of a blessing and a curse that comes with Derrick Henry. It's like, well, yeah, between the tackles, he's as good as anybody. But when he's out there, you kind of know what the offense is going to do. You're kind of limited.
Exactly.
It's not that he can't catch passes and do other things, but you're not really utilizing the talent and putting your best 11 on the field for the job you're trying to do. Like, it's a little predictable when Derrick Henry's on the field. Absolutely.
And if we're doing something different or something special, they run Justice Hill out there, and that's great. Love him. He's one of those. He's kind of like in the same boat as Gus and Dobbins, where injury kind of kept him off the field more than expected, and you never got a good look at them. So it's exciting to see what he's doing. Knock on wood, fingers crossed, as we see, seeing Mitchell sitting on the IR as well, dealing with the same Baltimore bug that hits every running back. But I'm happy for Dobbins, and it just sucks watching him because, the defense is going to adjust very quickly. If you bring in Henry, you're running the ball. Otherwise, they bring in Hill, and then you play for a pass, and it's annoying to watch.
Well,
I definitely do not want to lose to the mustache and a annoyed old man Devontae Adams.
No, that's a bad loss. Losing to the Chiefs on opening night on the final play, there's no shame in that. And it's not your night. Anytime you're playing against the defending champs on their banner-raising, ring-getting night, it's not your night. So I thought the Ravens, the fact that they made it close at the end, although the game didn't feel close, I know it was close at the end, but for most of the game, it's like, man, this is the Chiefs versus the Ravens, or this is the Chiefs versus the Bills. Like, these other teams are good, but they're just not on the level. I know it was close at the end of the final play. Yeah, the Ravens feel very predictable with Derrick Henry, which, this is just a lesson in offseason expectations. We think when a team adds a player, well, that's going to be unstoppable. It's like, well, probably not, though, because lots of teams add good players. And a lot of people think that their teams has had a good offseason, right? I've been saying that with the Bears. It's hard to win in this league. Well, we got DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, and, we drafted Rome Odunze. Yeah, there's probably half a dozen other teams in the league who had a similar offseason and who feel the same way about their team. And that's good. It's good that all the fan bases and everyone's excited about their team, but it's not just as easy as, hey, we think we had a good offseason. We think we made some nice additions. We step onto the field, we win games. It's hard to win in this league. 608-321-1670. Let's keep it going. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Andy in Sun Prairie.
Andy in Sun Prairie. What's up, Andy?
Hey, I bought brewery tickets 3 weeks ago thinking that would be about when they might clinch, and turns out I might be right tonight.
You bought tickets for tonight?
Yep. So I'm headed out there in just a little bit. But the question I got for you is, obviously they're going to win the Central. That's not the question. The question is whether or not you think that they can actually catch one of these two teams and get a bye. I know that you, in years past, have been kind of, I'm not going to get my hopes up because I'm not going to let this team crush my hopes and dreams again and all of that. So I just was wondering if you're in the same boat this year, or if you think that maybe they have a run in them, and whether or not you think they can get that bye.
So let me look at some schedule stuff. Andy, I appreciate the call. I'm just glad that they're in the mix for the bye. I think that whether or not they actually attain the bye, I think the fact that they're in the mix for a bye is going to help this team, whether they get it or not, because it's going to give them a carrot to chase. Whereas a couple times over the last few years, it's like, well, they clinch the division, celebrate, great, awesome, what a successful season, and then the vibes kind of die back down, and you go to the playoffs, and the team really hasn't played with a sense of urgency in a while. Even if they don't get the bye, chasing the bye through the final game of the season, having something to watch, having someone or something to chase, I think that'll serve the purpose and serve a purpose that I think the Brewers have probably been lacking down the stretch the last couple of years. The Brewers to close out, they have the Phillies and then 4 at home against the Diamondbacks. That's a good team. They go to Pittsburgh for 3 games, which is terrifying. And then they end the season the way they began by facing the Mets. That's workable. that's doable. The 3 games in Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, worry me. I'm just looking at what the Dodgers have going on. The Dodgers have the Braves, the Marlins, the Rockies, the Padres, the Rockies. 6 games in your final dozen versus the Rockies is not, that's a little disconcerting, although the Rockies have certainly been a thorn in the Brewers' side this year, so we'll see. I don't have the Phillies roster or schedule in front of me. I will get that, Andy, because I do want to see what these other 2 teams are dealing with. I know the schedule doesn't always matter in baseball, but it's a starting point to talk about maybe how these next 2 weeks will work out at the very least. Let's take another call in the meantime. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
Eric, did you get off work early? What the heck's this?
No, I'm heading out to my secret lair, so I go. I get off. Yeah. I call earlier because.
Yeah.
Yep. I can call earlier because I'm not really Eric on I-90, but I don't believe anymore that I have to be on I-90 to be Eric on I-90.
Yeah.
I think I've graduated.
I agree. It's not location based. I would tend to agree. Well, what do you think? You want to talk football? I'm guessing.
Yeah. Philadelphia getting beat, Nick Sirianni. Yeah, I'm in total agreement.
He's a tool.
Philadelphia, I don't really have any, ill will, over that NFC Championship game. But Philadelphia as a whole, as a city, if you've ever been there, it's not a nice place.
I've never
Have
been
you
there.
been there?
I've never been there.
Well,
Do you just not like big cities? Like, I think you could say that about any big city, though.
No, I think if you go to Philadelphia, it's a whole new level. And it's a social, economic, issues. I mean, it's a crap hole.
Is there a big city that you do like? I'm just curious. I mean, you can feel however you want about any city. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I've never been to Philly. Is there a big city? I'm talking a big city that you like, not like Mankato. That doesn't count. Like a big city.
Well, I like Westby. A lot.
Yeah, the crown jewel, the metropolis of that. I love Westby, dude. I freaking love. You're not wrong.
Big cities. I like Kansas City. Kansas City's very nice.
Okay.
Very nice.
I've never been there either.
I haven't been to the bowels of it, so but I've been to Kansas City, downtown. It's very nice. I drove to Philadelphia, and it was except for going down to see the Liberty Bell. That's the only area that looks like anything's under control. A lot of economic loss there. It's a big port town. Not a lot of shipbuilding that used to go on. You know what I mean, Grant?
I love a port city. I love a port city. I want to feel like there's industry coming in and out.
Oh, well, if you go to that Philadelphia area and you're in you're close to the Chesapeake Bay, go across the Chesapeake. So you'll see all that if you go out there. I'm sure you'll make it.
I'm sure it's on my list, Eric. I just got another couple callers for reference. And Eric, I'm not telling you that you're wrong. Kansas City is 500,000 people, Kansas City proper. Philly's like 1.5 million. There's a difference of 1 million people. So you don't like big cities because I think you would go to Los Angeles, San Francisco, Houston, New York City, right? Like if there's 1 million or more people in a small condensed area, it's just a thing. Like Kansas City, or I'm trying to think of like even Milwaukee to agree. Like Milwaukee's big. Milwaukee's so much bigger than anything else in Wisconsin, but Milwaukee's tiny compared to other big cities, right? And that's fine. You can feel however you want about it. And by the way, I adore Westby. I love Westby, Coon Valley. I love all those cities. Westby's probably the hub, economically speaking, of that area. All right, time for one more call, and then we got to take a break. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Who's this?
This is Pat from Eau Claire.
Pat
we
in
were
Eau Claire.
talking earlier, just a comment about Philly fans.
Yes.
One thing you have to remember about Philly fans is they're the type of people who would cheer the hunter that shot Bambi's mother, and that's all you need to say.
They probably would. Yeah. They're passionate, Pat. Is that a crime?
No, I love Philly fans because of their passion.
Gotcha. I think sometimes as Wisconsin sports fans, we could have a little more bite. We could have a little more edge. I saw a little bit towards Bama fans. I don't like being rude to fans when they come to visit your city unless they're being rude to you. But I think, man, sometimes our crowds could be a little bit more rabid sometimes, Pat.
I agree with you totally.
Are you running away from the phone? Pat, thank you for the call. Are you running away from the phone as you talk to me? We got to take a break. Come back. Some more Brewers thoughts. I have a comment or two from Matt LaFleur that I want to play. You remember our guy, David Gasper. It's Tuesday. Reviewing the Brew will join us in hour number 2. The show's flying by. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show, getting away from the Packers talk just for a little bit at least to begin tonight's game. David Gasper, Reviewing the Brew, will join us in a little bit less than a half hour to talk Brewers. Last night was a big win for the Brewers, getting the first in the series against the Phillies. That's a team that they're chasing in the race for the number 2 seed or the number 1 seed, I guess. Either one of those seeds will work. If they're able to get to 1, great. 2, that's just fine. You get the first round bye. Either way, and my point, and I've really been saying this for weeks, even if they don't end up getting the bye, the fact that they're in the mix for it, and it's something for them to chase and focus on for the remaining, X number of games in the season after they clinch, I think that serves a purpose. Even if they ultimately have to play in the wild card round, I think they'll be a more engaged baseball team because of it. A little breaking news, and this is from sources that I have inside the Brewers ballpark. I know the game is not until 6:40, but Devin Williams is already throwing. Pat Murphy said, yes, we want to be careful with his usage. Maybe he'll face a hitter or 2 tonight, but want to make sure he's loose. So that's why at 4:43, he's already warming. I also heard that he was warming around 11:15 this morning. This is a joke, of course. He's not actually warming. Well, who knows? I don't know. Pat Murphy just loves to get him up and down, even though he says he's watching his usage and not bringing him into the game. All right, back to the call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, you happen to catch the Monday Night Football game?
I did. I saw just about all of it. I was dialed in at the very end because I kind of set the Brewer game to the side once that was in hand. So I was extra focused at the end.
Yeah, do we think these Philly fans, I know they're irrational. People forget they did boo Santa Claus. I think they're being a little irrational putting this loss on Sirianni. All Saquon Barkley had to do was catch that ball.
I don't like Sirianni. So I like to hold it against him, although I don't think it was his fault. It's like what's going on with Bryce Young. Everyone's like, well, this is David Tepper. It's like, well, actually, it maybe a little, but we never blame owners. It's just people don't like David Tepper, so they want to stick this on him. And I'm not going to stand in the way. He kind of seems like a dick, so it makes sense to me. But if Saquon catches that pass, and it would have been another thing if the defense provided any resistance cone, but they just opened the gates up. That was the easiest game-winning drive you will ever see. And that's not on Sirianni. That's on his defensive coordinator, who Howie Roseman hired. We've learned, Howie Roseman hires the coordinators. Nick Sirianni didn't have control over that either.
Yeah, they do put Howie on a pedestal. I was kind of agreeing with you. Maybe Ben Kenny could chime in on this.
Maybe he could.
But I was just thinking, watching that last drive, Kirk, running down the field. Imagine Desmond Ridder doing that last year.
Running or looking good at all, looking not like a catastrophe.
Delivering a game-winning drive with 45 seconds left.
Is that what he did? Is that what you're saying? He did that against the Packers?
Oh, he did? Did he? I don't know.
I don't remember how that game went. I just thought that's what you were driving at. He looked like an athletic, dangerous quarterback against the Packers, him and Bijan Robinson, just kind of like Bryce Young did against the Packers last year too. Yeah.
My point was more that, this is exactly why Atlanta brought in
Gotcha.
Kirk Cousins.
I would tend to agree. I don't think most people really realized how bad Desmond Ridder was. Desmond Ridder couldn't make the practice squad in Arizona, I don't think. They cut him at one point, for guys who I'd never heard of before. So, yeah, I like that Atlanta has a real quarterback because Kyle Pitts is fun, and Drake London is fun, and Bijan Robinson is fun, and it's kind of fun to watch the Eagles lose because screw them. I don't really think it's Sirianni's fault, but he does nothing to, what would the word be? He does nothing to make himself appear more likable in the public eye. He does nothing to engender himself to fans. I think that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, screw Philly. Those fans all suck. Pittsburgh is just a superior city of Pennsylvania. Without Pittsburgh, we'd be all be speaking German right now.
Yeah, we'd be living in, I don't even know what comes to mind when we build things out of steel, but everything would be built out of wood and paper. The Steel City, you're absolutely right, Cone. I've never been to Pennsylvania. I would like to go sometime. I'd like to go to PNC Park because it looks very pretty. And I've never really traveled to go to a ballpark. I've been to Safeco just to tour it. It was in the off season. It was in March when I was in Seattle years and years and years ago. I've been to spring training, but I've never been to Chase down there. I've never really traveled. I've been to Wrigley for concerts, but never for a baseball game. PNC is one that I feel like everyone says you should go to. So at some point, I'd like to. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, how we look?
Corey in Marshall. How are you looking?
Looking warm out here, man. This feels like freaking July 4th, not first day of fall almost.
I know it's terrible. I'm sweating here in the studio.
I was sweating, waiting in line to get my wife's wife, and I'm like, this is not what I was really planning for. But I'll get to the point. Sorry, I'm
sure.
kind of digressing there. So the Hopi Milner, you mentioned something, and I tend to agree with you. And I was kind of wondering, since we're going to do a little Brewers talk, why do you think he's still being run out there? Is he got like blackmail on Pat Murphy that he's like not actually Irish or something like that, or what? Why do you think he's still running him out there then? In that case, is it?
I don't know.
Stubbornness. Okay.
I think it's probably because the Brewers internally don't feel as confident about Mizorowski or Yoho as people do on the outside. That would be my guess.
They're trying to protect those guys. They don't want exposure.
Maybe, or maybe they just don't think they're ready. And maybe the Brewers do truly internally. I hope this is how they feel. I hope the Brewers internally just feel like Hopi Milner, we believe in more as a major league reliever and arm in leverage spots than we would if we were to bring up Mizorowski or Yoho.
All right.
Because anything else would be we're trying to save money, we're trying to lengthen our investment or service time, and that's not about winning games here and now. So I hope that's not how they're operating.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess we're just going to ride the wave and see what happens. So you were talking about playoff positioning and kind of just as we head into the end of September here and feeling like we're going into July, basically. What do you think, or which one of the wild card teams that if they possibly face a wild card, let's do a theoretical here. Which one would you think would be the most dangerous one with their lineup versus the Brewers? And maybe this is a longer form question. I didn't mean to just drop that on you, but just off the top of your head without really knowing anything at all, you think like the Mets, Arizona, maybe?
I mean, probably, because I think Arizona is Arizona knocked them out last year.
They got pitching.
They do.
Yeah.
And they have pitching, although you wouldn't have known it with that last series. I need to pull up the standings, and I need to look at a bracket. And Corey, I appreciate it. Not to pull a Ryan Russillo, be like, I didn't know we were doing this today. What team has the most lefties? That would be my answer. It's pathetic. It's basic. It's simple, but that's my answer. What team has the most left-handed pitchers? That's the team I want to avoid. Look, a team like the Braves at one point, it's like, oh, they might be close. They got a lot of talent, but I mean, the Brewers have schlacked them over. The last time they played, they just lit that team on fire. Let me do some looking during this next break, and I can give you a better answer. But I don't just want to talk out my butt. That's a waste of time. I'd rather take one more call and give you a better answer on the other side of this break. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Chad from Spring Grove.
Hey, Chad, what's up?
Not much. Really quick question, and I might have missed something this weekend with the Packers game. Was Eric Stokes not in the lineup, or was he not playing much? I saw Valentine and so forth, but I just didn't know if I missed something with him in the game at all.
He started, and then Valentine took over, and then Stokes came back in at the very, very end. And
I didn't know if something was going on or
not injury.
Stuff, but also,
according to what we've been told, it's not injury. It was really hot. I'm trying to keep that in mind, Chad. Like it was 85 degrees. It was really hot, but I don't really know why they'd sit him out the whole game. Maybe Valentine got tired at the end and they're like, well, we prefer Valentine, but he's so worn out. We need to put Stokes back in. It might've been as simple as that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just didn't know everything coming out of spring training camp, everything, he was looking good. He was healthy and played, I think, almost the whole game in Brazil. And then I watched the whole game Sunday, and I just didn't see Stokes hardly at all. And the defense of the DBs did a good job against the receivers, so maybe that's probably why I didn't see a lot either. Like we were getting gashed by the run there and so forth, but I just didn't see Stokes much. So that's all. That's the only question today.
No, and I'll look into that the same way that I'm going to look into this playoff picture. I got a couple things I want to look up. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything in Matt LaFleur's presser yesterday about Eric Stokes. I think he was asked about it. I think he kind of no-sold the answer, but I'm going to look it up and make sure. I'm going to look up the playoff picture and give you my thoughts. I think it's the Mets if the playoffs started today, but I could be wrong. In fact, I probably am. So let me do some looking. I'll give you answers on both of those things. We'll wrap up hour number 1 of the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show, wrapping up hour number 1. David Gasper about a half hour away. He'll join us from Reviewing the Brew. Talk Brewers at 5:30. Going into tonight's game, Brewers, Phillies, 6:40 start. I have been told that Devin Williams was warming. He is now sat down. So I'll keep you updated as he continues to. Eric Stokes, I was not able to find anything specific on why he was handled the way that he was. I was going to say, I think Matt LaFleur mostly gave a no-go on an answer. He started the game, and then Valentine played most of the game, and then Stokes came back in at the very end. Maybe there was a reason for that. I posited on Pack-A-Day on Sunday with Andy and Perry that maybe they wanted Stokes' speed in the event that some big play was going to happen. They wanted to prevent that final kind of last gasp drive for the Colts. Or maybe they started Stokes, decided that Valentine gave them a better option, and then at the end of the game, it was 85 degrees. Valentine was like, I can't do this. So they subbed him out to bring in Stokes, who was fresh at the very end. That seems like a reasonable, likely explanation. That'd probably be my guess. By the way, the Brewers would play the Mets. The Mets make me nervous because they have David Peterson and Quintana, and they have lefties. They have 3 starting lefties. And in a 5-game series or a best-of-3 game series, that's enough. That's plenty. And Quintana's seen the Brewers more than enough. I mean, we're very familiar with him. 608-321-1670. Time for one call, and then we'll get to the top of the hour. We'll get an update from Zach. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Oh, Grant, it's Nate. Long time no talk.
Hey, Nate. What's going on?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, same. Good Packers win. The Brewers are looking nice, and the Badgers still exist.
They are there.
Yeah. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic
Yeah.
I really think Will Thomas and Jackson Trio have been like the driving force of the Brewers offense, at least the last month or so. I feel the same way about that, especially Jackson Trio, you know.
Oh, totally.
And I'm pretty excited to see what he can do in the postseason. The Brewers are going to win the Central. Packers are going to go into Nashville and get another win with them. The vibes are good, and that's about all I got for you.
That's all that needs to be said, Nate. I appreciate the call. Jackson Trio being the driving force behind this team has been exciting to watch. It's very cool that he's that good at 20 years old. It's also a little concerning. It's like, okay, so if the 20-year-old doesn't hit the ball, or are we just kind of boned? I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from Contreras and from Adames. Contreras, by the way, laced a ground ball at 116 miles an hour last night. That's what I'm talking about. Like, the dude rocks baseballs. I just need him to elevate them a little bit more often. You're like, oh, launch angle, so woke. No, it's not. It's not about that. He smokes the ball. His hard hit metrics are up there with some of the best in baseball. He just doesn't elevate it enough, which is why his home runs kind of come and go. Hitting the ball hard, barreling the ball, that's not his issue. The issue is elevating it. He hit 116 mile an hour. He hit a ground ball that made it to the wall last night. Scored 2 runs. It was huge. I just, every once in a while, I would like to see him elevated a little bit more. It's cool that Jackson Trio is this good at this age. It just makes me a little nervous about the 20-year-old being the make or break point of our offense. It's like, okay, so if they can pitch around Jackson Trio, we're just not going to score runs sometimes. It seems like we can be a little bit better than that with Adames and Contreras in the lineup. Like, those two should be able to contribute on a somewhat consistent level. I know Adames is not going to homer every day, and I know Contreras is going to have, of course, they're going to have hot and cold stretches, but I need them to be a little bit more consistent. Can't be 100 or 0. We need to find a little bit of a middle ground and give, again, the 20-year-old some protection in the lineup. Continue to take your calls. We'll talk more Brewers. I also have a comment from Matt LaFleur that I want to play, and I'll get to that when it seems right. I don't want to push any callers away from the Brewers or what you want to talk about. So when there's a lull, I have a comment from yesterday, Matt LaFleur. We'll get to that. First, 2-minute update from Zach Hopper in 2 minutes. No commercials.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's a day off for the Packers. They're going to get back at it tomorrow to begin preparing for a trip to face Tennessee on Sunday. It's unclear if quarterback Jordan Love will be out there with them. He missed Sunday's win over Indianapolis with a sprained MCL. Coach Matt LaFleur said yesterday he'd know more on Wednesday when they actually practice. If he can't go again, it'll be Malik Willis leading the Packers against his former team. Willis was solid in his first start with Green Bay, going 12 for 14 for 122. He also did not yesterday that he didn't know how Willis would handle it.
I think you have to kind of go through it. I think we're all learning each other, and he felt confident in terms of what he was able to show through the course of the week of practice. But ultimately, just there's heightened anxiety, heightened pressure when you're in a real game situation. So I don't think you truly know until you get out there and kind of go through that process with him.
Again, it'll be the Packers and Titans on Sunday. Kick is at noon. Turn to the Badgers. They're getting the week off. It's going to allow them to adjust following the loss of quarterback Tyler Van Dyke to a torn ACL that will cause him to miss the rest of the year. Braden Locke going to be the starter moving forward. Wisconsin is at USC next Saturday.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Farmers deal with a lot, including long days, stress, and fatigue. This is your reminder to take breaks, stretch, have a snack, and hydrate your body. Avoid farm accidents by keeping yourself healthy. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn how Rural Mutual supports Wisconsin farmers and prioritize safety on the farm.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers could clinch the NL Central as soon as tonight. Their magic number is at 2 as they face the Phillies again. If they win and the Cubs lose, they'll win the division. First pitch is at 6:40. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil. Print.
The challenges of going into a football game without your quarterback, with a guy that's been here for 3 weeks, it's a credit to everybody. Credit to our players and our coaching staff for putting them in a good position.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour 2, Wisco Sports Show. I want to get back to the calls. And I really, tonight, if you want to talk Brewers and you felt like the show has abandoned you, if you feel like the show has forsaken you the last couple weeks with Packers and Badgers talk, I'm sorry, but tonight is your night. So if you're sitting on hold, there's 2 of you there currently. I will get to you. Just give me 60 seconds, 2 minutes tops to kind of get the ball rolling the second hour of the show. 608-321-1670. You can tweet me. Find my quote-unquote work on Twitter at Wisco Grant. The show live streams on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. It's very easy to find. I think the video component adds a little fun, right? We have a little fun on there. Throw some fun graphics. David Gasper will join us on video, so you will see his handsome face. David Gasper, fun fact, is 6'8". He is a tall, lanky bastard. He is the giant of the Brewers press box. And the Brewers beat is tall. Like, all those guys are 6 feet at least. Kurt might be the lankiest human being I've ever met in my life, but Gasper's just next levels. He's going to join us in a half hour. One thing I noticed on Twitter today, little by little, and I saw this again for the last 2 minutes, is everyone mad at ESPN for bringing Jason Kelce into the booth last night? Is everyone mad? I saw Kyle Brandt make a stink about this earlier. He's like, it felt like the E in ESPN stood for Eagles. Which, sure. Okay, so you felt like it was too Eagle-centric. Fine. I thought Jason Kelce was kind of fun for a quarter. And I thought, credit to Joe Buck, America's booth, I thought Joe Buck did a pretty good job working him in. I thought Aikman was dialed last night. I think, and you might disagree, maybe I'm reaching here. I think all the focus on Tom Brady, how does Tom Brady sound? And last year was all open season on Tony Romo. I think Aikman stepped his game up. I thought Aikman was terrific last night. At least in the parts of the game where I was really focusing. I thought Kelce was fun. Oh, so Eagles-centric. Okay, fine. Well, the Eagles lost, so it's funny. They got the game stolen away from them at the end, and all those Eagles fans went home miserable, so it balanced out. I thought Kelce was kind of fun. Just my 2 cents. Everyone seems mad about it. I see Nick Costos, who does You Better You Bet, talking about it. 3-minute rant he posted to Twitter. I was like, oh, I thought it was kind of fun. I don't know. Maybe just me. 608-321-1670. Back to the calls. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Hello? Wow. Strong words. Good commentary. One of the more powerful calls that we've had tonight. Silence can be stronger than the spoken word occasionally. All right, line 2, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell.
Hey, Darnell. What's up?
Hey, okay. So first off, good to have the Brewers back in the Wisco Sports Show here. It was a little bit of a lull with all the football talk here the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let's be real. The Brewers were going through it a little bit there to start September. So even if you would have had the talk component of it, what would you have said? They're kind of struggling at the plate, and their pitching doesn't look as good, Yeah. They've really turned it up the last, 5-6 days. They had such a good opportunity to, really take hold of the 2-1 seed battle on Sunday night, or I guess Sunday afternoon, and just that was such a fumble by Murphy and crew. I'm sorry, I've been on his bandwagon all year, and people saying, oh well, he doesn't make the best decision making. I'm like, okay, well, he's a player's guy. He gets his guys fired up, and that's why he's there, and that's why he's so great. But you cannot have gas like that in the playoffs. You just can't.
I agree. You're preaching to the choir on that. That was horrible. That was bad.
That was terrifying.
And oftentimes in sports and in life, let's get philosophical here for a second, Darnell. We make mistakes when we don't do things intentionally, when we don't go all in on something, right? And Pat Murphy trying to, I would really like to rest Evan today, but also if he only needs to face one guy, I get rest him or don't, pitch him or don't, and live with the results. You get yourself in trouble in life, Darnell, when you try to sit on the fence. That's when we get ourselves into trouble.
Yeah, but agreed. And here's even the worst part of that is I think that ruined Jackson Churrio's signature moment of the season.
Good take. Yeah.
I we'd be talking about the game-winning triple if Murphy would have put your closer in the bottom of the 10th inning, man. Seriously. or top of the 10th, whatever it was.
Whatever it was.
Like, it's just frustrating, man. Just frustrating.
I would like for this team to stop going to extras. I'm over it. I don't enjoy extra innings. I don't think they're additive. I think it's a detriment to both teams. It further wears out the bullpens. I don't enjoy any of it. Anytime a game goes to extras, I roll my eyes. So I would just like to avoid them entirely. Sunday was bad. Sunday was really bad. And again, Murphy, what do you want to do? Does Devin need the night off, or can he pitch? If he can pitch, then you need to give him an opportunity to save the game. And if he can't pitch, then stop getting him up to throw. Let him sit there. Let him rest, Darnell. This isn't hard.
But then last night when he brought in Hobie Milner with 2 on, nobody out, I just about lost it. And then it worked out. So I'm like, that's why I'm not the manager, right? But I was like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. To me, the Hobie Milner thing last night, Darnell, that's a great call. I appreciate it. The Hobie Milner thing last night is not an indictment on Pat Murphy. It's an indictment on Matt Arnold and the Brewers and the way they've gone about the last month. Okay. I know it worked. I know they won the game. I know that Hobie got them out of that jam and then got them more innings, covered more time. It's not on Pat Murphy that Hobie Milner was in there, right? Pat Murphy was dealing with the players that were on his roster and in a position to pitch. Devin Williams has pitched a lot, and Yoel Payamps is dealing with some strain. He's not available. Okay. Elvis Peguero's not there anymore. Jared Koenig's pitched a lot. All these guys have pitched a lot, and they weren't available. Fine. My point is, Hobie Milner should not be that guy. It's like, oh, who's up next? Hobie? All right, get in there. In my opinion, that should be Mizorowski or Yoho or Hudson. There are better options that aren't rostered right now. And in July, if you want to pitch Hobie Milner and try to get him on track like they did with Yoel Payamps, which was smart, I always thought it was kind of in the cards that he would figure it out and get going and be great. And that happened. I'm not saying I predicted it to happen. I'm like, hey, it's on the board, you guys, that Yoel Payamps just has a bad month or two and then turns out to be a good reliever for this team. And that's what's happened. I get that. In July, it's the 3rd week of September. And if I hear one more time on one of the Brewers broadcasts that Hobie Milner has been a victim of bad batted ball luck this year, I'm going to shoot myself in the skull. You can be a victim of batted ball luck for a month or 2 months or 3 months. It's September. Fall starts this weekend. You're telling me for 5 months, he's had the worst luck in the entire world. I'm supposed to buy that? Ooh, he's batted ball luck. Well, yeah, when every ball is put in play, you're going to have that. Hobie Miller's not really a strikeout guy, and he can strike guys out. Well, he's had bad luck on balls in play. Okay, since April, though? Like, really? Is it about to turn? Does he just we hit the 5.5 month mark, and that's when this is supposed to turn for him? I think it's an indictment on the Brewers and the way that they've managed the bottom of their roster in the bullpen. I think they have better options that are in the minors and not on the 40-man and not available to pitch. And I think in the 3rd week of September, I think it's a little embarrassing, if I'm being honest. 608-321-1670. Any last-minute Brewers thoughts before we do a Packers topic and get to Gasper? Wisco Sports Show, who's this?
Hey, Grant, Matt, and Cross Plains.
Hey, Matt and Cross Plains. Good. Are the Cubs going to lose tonight? Brewers going to clinch this thing, or what do we expect?
No, not tonight. Maybe tomorrow. I think the Brewers just have to win their 2 games. But anyway, I really think the Brewers bullpen needs a definite reset. That's the reason they most definitely have to leapfrog, the Dodgers or what team am I thinking of in the East? Why can't I think of who?
Dodgers, Phillies.
Yeah, well, either way, they got to leapfrog them. They got to stay out of that wild card series. I think that's what they need. So I'm cheering for that, Grant, because I don't think the Cubs are gonna face the Brewers if they were the third division winner.
You're cheering for the Brewers?
Yeah, of course.
Why?
I would cheer for the Brewers when
Why?
the Cubs are out of it.
Doesn't make sense.
Because, Wisconsin needs the Brewers right now to win it all. That's what I'm saying. So, or at least have a deep run into
don't
the
pander. Don't patronize me, Cubs fan Matt.
There's no patronization at all, Grant. None at all. I'm just pulling for you so you can cheer Craig Timber failing in Chicago because they couldn't beat the Rockies, which was pretty sad. But anyway, I'm thinking they gotta leapfrog one of the top 2 teams and get to that division series right away if they want to have a deep run. Okay?
Well, that's the problem because if
bullpen or not,
true, and if they get in a series with the Mets, well, they can throw Peterson, they can throw Quintana, they can throw Minaya, and if they get in a series against the Braves, they can throw Sale and Fried in game 1 and game 2, and if you have 2 bad offensive performances, your season is done, right? And then that's the danger of a wild card series, right, Matt? But especially the danger of a wild card series when you can go up against other teams with elite left-handed starting pitching, which is mostly just prohibited the Brewers from winning ball games, really for the better part of a decade now.
Yeah, that's true, except for when they faced Shota Imanaga, who's a lefty, and he's dominant.
Well, I think he's more of a cold weather merchant. If you take out his month of April and parts of May, I don't know. Book's still out on him.
Oh, he's 14-3, so.
And wins are an indicative stat of pitching success now. Come on, Chase Anderson almost won 20 games. How many did he win in 2017?
I'm not sure what his whip is, but whatever. It's under 1.2, I think. So that's pretty decent. And Chase Anderson, I think he won like 16 games, and who knows where he is now. But
I'm actually. Do you want to take a guess? I have it in front of me. He won 12. He didn't win. He didn't quite win 16.
I thought he was 16 and like 8 or something.
I thought it was more than that too. Pathetic. He couldn't even win 13 games. Pathetic, Chase Anderson. Ace Anderson.
Yeah, you gotta DM me where you're gonna be on Thursday next week, because I'll be up there, and then I'll be up there for not your show, but for the morning show, because I gotta get back to Madison on Friday. So
no, it's fine. If I see you I didn't see you at the tailgate this weekend. If I see you on Thursday night out and about, I'll see you at Evo's show too. I'll be there.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, have a good one, and I'm as a Cubs fan. Why not? Go Brewers. Let's go.
That's weird. I think you have ulterior motives, and I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. But I guess if you're genuine in that, good for you. You're a better man. You're a better sports fan than I. So I appreciate that from you. Thank you, Matt and Cross Plains, everybody. I am behind on texts. Let's get to some of these. Rockin' Rick says on Eric on I-90's point, I love Wyoming. It has less population than Milwaukee. I was just talking about Wyoming last night with my significant other. You would be shocked at how few people there are in Wyoming. You go to the Dakotas or you go to Montana, you're like, there's not a lot of people here. Then you go to Wyoming. It's different, man. There's the lack of humans in that space is shocking. Bart says, you're right. It's Mets as of now. Diamondbacks, Padres would be the other series. That's yes, if the playoffs started today. Snappy Tom says, how come you're not giving any love to your boy Frelick? He had a good game last night. You know the funny thing about Sal? It might be the messed up thing about Sal Frelick. You know the messed up thing about Sal Frelick is he made an unbelievable throw last night to strike down a runner at third. And everyone that I saw on Brewers Twitter was like, he throws the ball harder than he hits it. It's like, God, he can't win. And then later on in that game, he hit a ball at like 109 off the bat. Sal Frelick had his highest exit velocity of the year last year. And all of Brewers Twitter, again, that I saw was like, I'm buying my tickets for next postseason, next September, because then I can make sure to be in attendance when Sal Frelick hits the ball again that hard the next time, pointing out the fact that he's not going to do that again for an entire year. So we've talked about Sal Frelick on the show and his limitations. The dude can't win. Poor Sal. He makes an unbelievable throw, and everyone's like, if only he could hit the ball that hard, which is true. I'm not going to say that crosses some sort of line because it's true. But we should recognize Sal Frelick had a nice night last night. Thank you, Snappy Tom. Bobby in Menominee says, never gave this coverage to Scott Wells. That's all I'm saying. Can we ban semis? What does that mean? Never gave this coverage to Scott Wells. Oh, well, Scott Wells never joined the booth. You're talking about Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce's also a Hall of Famer. Scott Wells was good. Super Bowl winner, but sorry, it took me a sec to realize the reference you were making. If I'd recognized it in real time, I would have laughed a little bit more. Sorry, I didn't do you justice on that, Bobby. Coyote Mike with a Brewers thought says, Grant Murphy has used a boatload of psychology managing this Brewers team. Might explain some of the head-scratching moves he made with this lineup and the pitching staff. So I'm not going to complain too much because something is working and working very well. Who's your Brewers MVP? Well, right now it's Churio. Thank you, Coyote Mike in Colorado. I think Murphy's done a lot of good things. Psychologically, I think he's psychologically tormenting his closer because I think Devin Williams is constantly angry about everything. So there's some psychological work being done there. J.A. Krebs says, I don't think bringing in Williams, who, let's be honest, hasn't been perfect in extras with the runner on rule, is smart in my opinion. He shouldn't have had him warm up, though. Okay, well, we can agree on the second half. Devin Williams has had more clean innings than most Brewers fans are giving him credit for. Brewers fans are talking about Devin Williams in 2024 like he's made an absolute mess every time he's gone out there. He has a couple of times, but he's had his fair share of 3 up, 3 down innings too, and he has strikeout potential. So Williams, I think, has been perfect in extras with the runner on. I think he's only been brought in one other time to do it, and it was against Cincinnati, and he walked that tightrope and didn't let that inherited runner score. So again, I think perception not always equaling reality with Devin Williams and the job that he's done, or I should say the manner in which he's done his job, probably more accurately. Here's a text. Why is the NFL forcing the Kelsey family on us? Blutowski Kelsey is an obnoxious drunk. Are you making fun of Bukowski, or are you making fun of Travis Kelsey, or are you making fun of Taylor Swift? I don't even know what that means. It says, why is the NFL forcing the Kelsey family on us? He's an obnoxious drunk. There's so many other interesting former players, and all we get is Terry, Howie, Jimmy, and now Kelsey. I might be with you a little bit on Terry, Howie, Michael, and Jimmy, although I do like the Fox pregame show. Have someone else read the highlights, though. For the love of God, please have someone else read the highlights. I thought Kelsey was good in the booth. I don't know that he's being forced on us. They brought him into the booth because he was there last night. If anything, indict the Eagles. If anything, don't put this on Fox or ESPN, I suppose, where Troy and Joe Buck are now. Don't put this on ESPN. Put this on the Eagles, who have such a lack of current identity, it would seem, that they need to schlep out Jason Kelsey and Nick Foles to try to get the crowd into it because they need the fans to latch onto someone. And I think the fans like Jalen Hurts to a degree, but this team has lost 7 of 9. The fans are not happy with this current team and coaching staff. So the Eagles have got to schlep out Jason Kelsey. It's not like he just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. He retired 2 games ago. The Eagles have played 2 games since Jason Kelsey got retired, and they're parading him back, which is fine. Again, but they brought Nick Foles back. Like, this is the Eagles' fault. This is not ESPN's fault. If the Eagles had more players that were likable and their team was winning and the fans were currently rallying around them, then they wouldn't need to parade Jason Kelsey out there the same way that the Brewers parade the 1982 World Series team. And I wasn't around in 82. I won't speak on it. If they're your bag, that's fine. I've heard the movie is very cool and very good. I will watch it at some point. I'm not going to rip it. It's just they didn't win the World Series. So there's also that. Let's take a 3-minute break, come back. I have a Packers thing for you, and then David Gasper reviewing the Brew.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show coming back. A couple of housekeeping things. Comments and texts. A comment first from Nick, who, boy, I can't believe how did nobody else get this? When we were talking about pitchers that have won a lot of games, and we're like, didn't Chase Anderson win almost like 20 games one year? And then Matt and Cross Plains and I were chatting. I looked it up, and he won 12. Like, why did I misremember that? It was Davies who won 2017, or 17 games in 2017. How did we miss that? That's on me. I got to be better. Also, something that I missed, and Cone Roller texts in and points this out. He says, Blukowski is an Animal House reference. Sad you didn't know that. Okay, first, yes, that is a bummer. That is culturally relevant and something that I should pick up on. But I don't think it was Blukowski. I think it was Blutarski, and he went by Bluto. And also, what does that have to do with anything? So, okay. So, all right, it's an Animal House reference. But I had to jump like over 3 things to get there. And that movie is so much older than me, even if, yes, it's culturally relevant. I get it. Like, that's when I read that text and I made that connection. Yes, that ticked me off. I'm like, I should know that. I should be better than that. That's an L to not pick up on that. But also, like, he could have set that up a little bit better. Also, if you say Blukowski, I'm just going to assume you're making fun of Pete. Why would I assume anything else? Like, of course, it's an anti-Pete Bukowski joke. I just didn't see Kelsey, Bukowski, how are we getting there? And you're telling me that I was supposed to get Animal House from Blukowski because Travis Kelsey or Jason Kelsey drinks a lot. And I don't know that he does drink a lot. He's just known to throw back a beer. And what offensive lineman isn't? So, yes, I need to be better. I don't point fingers on the show. I point thumbs. But also, come on. Don't hold that against me, Cone. And you shouldn't, but I know you're going to. A Matt LaFleur comment from yesterday's presser. And I wanted to play this. I heard this during Bill's show today when we were playing the full presser. And I'm like, I want to replay that. I want to talk about that. And then I couldn't find where it was in the presser. So I had to listen to like 14 minutes of it to be able to dig it out. I thought I remembered where it was and it wasn't. He was basically asked by Wildy, by Ryan Wood, I don't remember who, but tip of the cap to whoever it was. It was a good question, got a good answer. Moving forward, now that Malik Willis has made a start, will you be more comfortable doing more with him? Will you trust him to throw the ball more? Will you open it up more for him, right? So this is his answer to that. Matt LaFleur, yesterday's presser.
Well, I wouldn't put a timeline on any of that. It's just the more reps he gets, the more opportunities in practice, then you feel a little bit more comfortable with it. And I'm sure if the complexion of the game would have been different, we may have done something differently. Where we were at with them receiving the second half kickoff, thankfully, when they punted the ball, Jay Reed did a great job of blocking the flyer, and that ball went out of the end zone, because I think their mentality probably would have changed a little bit differently as well. Had they had all 3 timeouts, and if we're backed up, I'm sure they would have burned them. But yeah, I didn't want to put us in a situation where it was a 2-possession game. They're getting the ball out of the half where we could jeopardize that.
So the reason that I play this clip is I think a lot of Packers fans came away from this game maybe a little bit, shocking as it might seem, a little underwhelmed. It's like, I thought Malik Willis could have done a little bit more. Or Packers fans were frustrated in the second half. It's like, you got to change it up. They know that the run's coming. Why didn't you change it up? Why didn't you have a second, kind of identity to go to? Okay. First of all, they won a game with a backup quarterback. Style points on offense are irrelevant. Completely and totally 100% irrelevant. They just want to, I'm going to continue to say this and say it in the exact same words. They won a game with a backup quarterback. That's really hard to do. The Rams are 0-2 with Matthew Stafford healthy. The Ravens are 0-2 with their quarterback healthy. The Jags with Trevor Lawrence healthy are 0-2. Like, teams with healthy starters are struggling to win games. The fact that the Packers won a game with a backup, you shouldn't need anymore. But there's a portion of Packers fandom that kind of was left wanting after that game. Okay, your standard is just so much higher. I guess good for you. You expect a lot from your team. I expect a lot from my team too, but I think expecting a lot is to just simply scrape out any type of win with a backup quarterback. That's fine. We'll agree to disagree. If you thought that the Packers could have done a little bit more and Matt LaFleur could have dialed up a little bit more in the second half, I think this answer should calm any concerns or questions you have about Matt LaFleur's game management. What Matt LaFleur basically said in that answer is like, look, we might have opened it up a little bit more. We might have ran some other plays. We might have been more aggressive. We were up 16-3. Why would we throw it just to throw it? I think Matt LaFleur, as I explained yesterday, watched that entire first half go down and then watched a little bit of the third quarter go down and drew the same conclusion that I drew, which is this Colts offense isn't doing jack. Now, if it was Josh Allen or Mahomes or Lamar or even Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold, I might have watched the other team and thought, man, Packers are getting lucky here because this other offense is eventually going to wake up. At some point, Josh Allen's going to make some big throws. At some point, Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson are going to connect on one of these. At some point, Jared Goff is going to stop throwing picks or fumbling the ball and connect with Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jameson Williams. At no point during Sunday's game was I watching and thinking, man, the Packers are getting away with this. Because at any point here, the Colts offense is about to bust loose. That wasn't going to happen. So I think Matt LaFleur came in with the correct game plan, run the ball. And it worked so well, it probably worked even better than Matt LaFleur envisioned. So he adjusted and said, I kind of had a secondary and a tertiary plan here for when the Colts eventually started stopping the run, but they never did. We ran for 250 yards in the first half, and we built a 16-3 lead. Why would I make this more complicated than I need to? And then watching the Colts side of the ball, too. It's like they're in shambles. They're a mess. They're not doing jack. Our defense is playing really well, and I don't think Anthony Richards can make enough accurate passes to march his team down the field. Why would I even risk? Why would I even think about risking a short field? Why would I think about coughing up the ball for them? I don't think the Colts are going to score of their own volition, and our offense has been able to run the ball. Why would I change it up? And again, I'm going to play that comment from Matt LaFleur one more time, and then we can go to break. This is him talking about, we also saw how the game was going down, and we made some adjustments. We made some decisions in that game based on what we were seeing.
I wouldn't put a timeline on any of that. It's just the more reps he gets, the more opportunities in practice, then you feel a little bit more comfortable with it. And I'm sure if the complexion of the game would have been different, we may have done something differently. Where we were at, with them receiving the second half kickoff. Thankfully, when they punted the ball, Jay Reed did a great job of blocking the flyer, and that ball went out of the end zone, because I think their mentality probably would have changed a little bit differently as well. Had they had all three timeouts, and if we're backed up, I'm sure they would have burned them. But I didn't want to put us in a situation where it was a 2-possession game. They're getting the ball out of the half where we could jeopardize that.
If the Colts would have scored at some point in the first or second quarter, I think we probably would have seen a different script. I told Bill yesterday, I brought this up on Pack-A-Day on Sunday night because I'm doing that every other weekend now with Andy and Perry. I would bet you dollars to donuts that Matt LaFleur had a Christian Watson play or two in his back pocket for this game. It's like, okay, so when they start cheating up, when they start figuring out our running game a little bit, I have this play that we've been working on in practice, and I think if we call it in the right spot and everyone executes, we can steal a touchdown on a big play with Watson's size and speed. I would bet you dollars to donuts, I'd bet you anything that he had a play or two in his pocket in the script for this game. And then they ran for 250 yards in the first half. And they made it look easy. And LaFleur thought, why do I need to use it? We'll just run out the clock. I'm not scared of Indy. Watch them. I have eyes. Aren't you watching? This team stinks today. They can't score. Richardson can't make the throws he needs to make to put together a long drive. So we're going to trust our punter, who's been great. We're going to run the clock on offense, try to buy first downs when we can, but play field position because that team's not about to figure it out. Look at them. They're a mess. And I think that Matt LaFleur kept some stuff in his back pocket that he was probably prepared to use if the game had transpired a little bit differently, but it didn't. That's the game that we got. And I think Matt LaFleur was like, I'm going to do as little as possible to still win this game. And that's exactly what they did. 608-321-1670. Text if you want. Tweet at Wisco Grant. You can comment on the live stream as well. David Gasper, Reviewing the Brew, set to join us next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
it's not like he's hitting the ball, 120 off the bat, but he is hitting it all over the place, and his contact ability is very interesting.
He is now plus across the board, and he can do damage on a variety of pitches, and especially like damage pitches. If you make a mistake to him, he's 20 years old and he punishes it.
That's our friend Kurt Hogue. Just gets us into some Brewers conversation. We haven't had Kurt on in a while. We need to talk to Kurt. Joining us now, not Kurt Hogue, although one of the few individuals that can rival and, dare I say, best Kurt Hogue in a height competition. David Gasper, you're taller than Kurt. David, you were 6'8". How tall is Kurt? He's a fraud. He's like 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, he's like 6'5", 6'6", something like that. He's up there. He's tall, but yeah, I think I've got everyone else on the Brewers beat bested in the height category.
Well, let's start with last night. So they win 6-2. And I think it's a very surprising win because, and I kind of hate sometimes when sports people do this, but I got to do it. Gasper, if I would have told you yesterday that Hobie Milner was going to pitch in high leverage and Colin Rea was going to get a save and Jackson Churio was going to go 0 for 4, that's just not a game that they've won the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of all started and ended offensively with Churio. So I don't know that was an unlikely win last night, but an impressive one and an important one.
Yeah, and facing a left-handed pitcher. I mean, that's something that's really been a problem for them in recent weeks and recent years. Perhaps you could extend it as well.
Decades.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like that's like I think it was a very good sign for the Brewers. With their offensive resurgence over the last couple of days, it really kind of started there in Arizona. And they were able to keep it going, facing Ranger Suarez, and keep things moving. Because there were a lot of concerns. We've talked about the last couple of weeks, concerns about this offense when they struggled against the Rockies, when they struggled against the Cardinals. They won the series out in San Francisco, but they didn't put up a ton of runs. And now they've kind of finally got it going again, and they're really able to have it come through. And yeah, the pitching did enough. It wasn't what you were expecting with Hobie Milner, coming up big, and then Colin Rea coming out of the bullpen. It wasn't something anyone was really expecting. But hey, you get the win, and that's really all you can ask for at this point in the season.
Oh, absolutely, especially against the Phillies. David Gasper reviewing the Brewers here. Code Red is a better name for a reliever than a starter, I think, if we're being honest about it. So maybe that fits his new role. I don't know. I said at the beginning of the show, I'm willing to back off this take if you can convince me. I know that Hobie pitched out of traffic and that outing was a success. The result was good. I think it's a little bit of an indictment on the Brewers. Like, I think they have better options that aren't rostered right now. I think they have better options in AAA. Hudson's down there as well. I just don't love that it's the third week of September and we're running Hobie out there in high leverage.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and I've been calling for Mizorowski or Yoho to get the call up, and obviously getting Brian Hudson back is something that we should see at some point soon here. I think he should be up here, but I think also with Hobie, and Pat Murphy kind of alluded to it a little bit yesterday after the game about how important he's been the last couple of years. How big he's been out of that pen. And obviously he hasn't pitched as well lately. But I think the Brewers are trying to get Milner through the rest of the season here. And is he going to be an option for them when it comes to putting their playoff rosters together? I don't think so. But I think they're trying to get him on the roster through the season here, and instead of DFAing him with a week to go. That's my guess as to what's actually going on here. But yeah, I mean, just with all the options that they have that are on the 40-man, with Hudson, with Peguero, who's also down there, it's going to be hard to clear a 40-man roster spots at this point for someone like Mizorowski or Yoho. I do agree with you that I think they're better options than Peguero or Milner or Tyler J. But all those guys have 40-man roster spots, and I don't think they're going to be looking to make too many of those moves right now. And I think they'd be, a bit more comfortable, like, okay, we can get through here without having to call on those guys right now.
So that's fine. I just, Murphy loves to say win tonight, right? That's the goal.
Right.
And I understand that there might be service time concerns. I mean, but also not really, because rosters expand and players are always called up in September. But, I just think Mizorowski, Yoho, two names that you mentioned, Hudson, I kind of get why they sent him down. But also, I think other relievers on the team, Devin Williams notably, is I don't really know why we're doing that. We're trying to win. We're trying to chase a bye here. So, so to you, it's a roster management issue. It's a 40-man issue.
Right.
It's a Tetris issue. It's not that they think that Hobie is a better option as a pitcher, maybe. And again, I don't mean to bag on the guy because he pitched well and he did his job last night. It's the third week of September, Gasper, and we're still running him out there.
Yeah, they're still running them out there, and hey, hopefully last night is maybe a sign of a turnaround here for Hobie. I mean, I'm not holding my breath for it, but I think that's where he brings something certainly to the table that they can go with, but also, I mean, yeah, you are down your better options yesterday, and you're looking at it Koenig probably not available, McGill probably not available, Pyamp's not available. So, I mean, you're down three of your biggest leverage options, and that's going to move a guy like Milner into that kind of leverage situation. And, hey, it worked out. So it's certainly great to see. But yeah, the roster management is really kind of what we're sitting at here, and especially when you're so close to the end of the season, and when you get to the playoffs, it's all different. You could technically call up Mizorowski or Yoho to make their MLB debuts in the postseason. It's happened before. You don't see it very often, but you could call them up then. You can move guys. You can just kind of take guys off the roster that you don't need. I mean, when you get to October, are you really going to need to have 6 starting pitchers plus Ross and Ashby, taking up your, all these spots on your pitching staff? No, you're not going to carry all of those guys. So you're going to leave a couple of them off for these short series, and you're going to kind of interchange them out. So that's going to leave room for maybe some more actual bullpen arms, single inning bullpen arms, and just putting your best roster out there. And that's maybe where we could see Mizorowski or Yoho. I think we should see Hudson back before the end of the regular season. That'd be my guess. But I mean, at the very least, he's going to be there in the postseason. You know that.
How about our boy Aaron Ashby? You mentioned him. I wasn't on my rundown of things to cover, but
yeah.
maybe the best current sports story in American professional sports that no one's talking about. It's not going to get any national run. They won't lead with it on Get Up, Gasper, but actually what an awesome story. And I think it's awesome that he's pitching at this level, and it's a massive help for the Brewers. They need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with how he's been able to turn things around since moving to the bullpen, because, having that shoulder surgery last year, and they've tried to run him back as a starter all season long, building up his innings, getting his workload back up there, and the results just weren't happening for him. So it's all right, the results just aren't going to be there. Maybe they'll play up in a shorter stint, and then we'll kind of build him back up, kind of similar to what they've done with other starting pitchers in the past, where, when they're young, they first call them up, like Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, all those guys, that they put them in the bullpen first to kind of, get them, back, get them into the swing of things at the major league level. And then they look to move them into the starting rotation. So maybe that's something that happens for Ashby. Just kind of you get him up because he is one of your more talented arms. That's why they signed him to that contract extension a couple of years ago. And, you get him pumping 98 from the left side out of the bullpen with some nasty stuff. I mean, that can help you out right now. And he's gotten the results so far. And then, you can look at 2025, potentially putting him back into that rotation, seeing if he can earn a spot. So that's going to put them in a much better spot. And it's so good to see Ashby back, because for pretty much the entire season, he's felt like an afterthought, because, even though everyone knows he's down there in AAA, every time you saw him pitching in AAA, he was giving up, 5-6 runs, and it wasn't looking good for him. He had an ERA of 7 or 8. It's I mean, it was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. It was unfortunate. And it's kind of funny that I wouldn't say out of nowhere, but just one day, Ashby's like, all right, my body feels right now. Now everything feels aligned.
Oh, I'm in the bullpen. Everything's good now. Yeah.
Yep. It's like, oh, I can feel it. It's there, I got healthy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
It's like rookie of the year, where all of a sudden this one day, just, the elbow just, snaps, and there he goes.
Yeah. That's all that it needed. Jerry tweets in, and I'm curious as well. What's up with an Oli Paredes?
I mean, Anoli Paredes, I mean, he's kind of your, I'd guess probably your last man in the bullpen right now. Coming back from the 60-day IL. They haven't really used him much at all. And that's probably, I mean, the trust really probably isn't there. He only had kind of limited run before he suffered his injury in the middle of the season. Now that he's come back, I mean, he's out of minor league options, so they're going to be rolling with him here because they don't want to DFA him either. I don't think, but because he's been good when he's out there, but I don't think the trust is fully there from Pat Murphy in him to have some of these bigger leverage situations. So I think he's got to build that up a little bit. So I think he's just kind of the last man in the pen right now. Very kind of low medium leverage type of situations. That's probably where you're going to end up seeing him.
So I didn't know it was up with Paredes, so I was curious as well. But since Jerry tweeted it in, can we wrap up by talking about Sal Frelick? Because
of course, absolutely.
I Sal Frelick last night has one of his best nights in a long time, and I feel for him because he makes that throw, and half of Brewers Twitter immediately goes to the keyboard and says, "Well, if only he could hit the ball that hard." It's like, okay. And then later on in the game, he does hit the ball really hard, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, he'll do that one more time over the next calendar year." Like the dude can't win.
Yeah.
Where do we stand on Sal? What's your Sal take at this moment in time? Take it any way that you want.
I mean, with Sal, it's like you got to start doing more damage at the plate. If you're
by the way, he just surpassed the RBI total of Jackie Bradley Jr. in 2021 for reference.
Oh
in like
my goodness.
80 more plate appearances. Brett tweeted, Saladino World tweeted that the other day. I'm like, he contacts the ball, but like, what did you say? He's got to do more of what? He's just a produce.
Do more damage.
Yeah, more damage.
You got to hit the ball harder. You got to barrel it up, at least a little bit more than what he's doing. Because, like it's one thing to not hit for power, because I mean, there are a lot of guys in the league who don't hit for much power, but they get on base at a much higher clip. Even though he makes all this contact and doesn't strike out that much, it's like you either got to get on base at a much higher clip, because hitting 260, with this little, pop is not entirely going to cut it. I heard a BA, talking about it on the broadcast too. He's like, yeah, he's due for a home run. Hasn't had one since like May.
So am I then. I'm also due for a major league home run by that metric. Yeah.
But yeah, he's got 2 on the season and he's been playing largely every single day. There doesn't need to be a ton of pop, but even just 8 to 10 homers a season. Like Bryce Terang. Like Terang isn't going to hit a ton of homers either. He's a singles hitter. He's a speed guy, contact guy. Him and Sal Frelick are very similar, but Terang is doing more damage. He's being able to get more extra base hits. Just a couple of doubles, Sal. Like just add on some doubles here. I don't need a ton of home runs, but some doubles will be nice. Use your speed to turn them into triples if you can. Like that's what Terang has done. And that's why Terang, he's taken that quantum leap this year, and he's got 40 some stolen bases. Yeah, we got a quantum leap reference on the show today. And it's like that's why Terang has gotten that kind of recognition. And there's nowhere near as much hate on Terang as there is on Frelick, because there hasn't been enough damage to make the lesser contact, I guess, the lower batting average, the lower on base percentage worthwhile.
And 260 is not awful. Like that's a decent average. But if you're not providing anything other than average, that's not good enough. Like Luis Arise hits, 300 plus, 315 plus. That's the benchmark. If you're just going to be a slap hitter that's always putting the ball in play and getting on base, 260 is not good enough. Right. So I agree with that breakdown. I think that's completely fair. I'm not going to say I feel bad for Sal Frelick. It's just kind of, he should not go on Twitter, because Brewers Twitter is not, it's just not.
Is he even on Twitter? I don't even know if he has a Twitter.
I don't know. I for the most part don't follow players for the most part. I don't need to interact with the players.
For the most part, they don't tweet much either.
They shouldn't. Hobie Milner's on Brewers Twitter though. He's plugged in. He's Bernard up. He sees what the Brewers say about him. Well, he realizes that he's a folk hero. Yeah, maybe less so this year. Although, yesterday he was great. we'll see. Maybe he does turn into a piece in the playoffs. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If I'm putting my best bullpen together, if I'm Pat Murphy for the playoffs, I'm not including Hobie Milner on it. I'm not.
And my point is to tie it all the way back to the beginning of the show, to the beginning of our conversation. Like, I think it's time to put together your best bullpen. It's September 17th. Like, I think it's already time, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
Excellent.
you're chasing down a top 2 seed in the National League. If that is indeed, and I had an article on this like a week or so ago on Reviewing the Brew. It's just like, if you're going to chase down a first round bye in the National League playoffs, you need your best bullpen out there. Get Hudson back up here. Get Mizorowski or Yoho, whichever one. It doesn't matter to me which, but get one of them up there, and they could absolutely be a force for this team out of the bullpen. And I think there's a couple spots where they can improve there. I mean, Peguero's already sent back down, so I mean, there goes kind of one of those options. But still, yeah, I'm with you. Put your best bullpen out there. If you're going to chase down a top 2 seed in the National League, which they say is the goal, then it would help to have your best bullpen out there.
I would tend to agree. Gasper, I am going to lacrosse next weekend. We're broadcasting live at Oktoberfest next Friday.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
I'm getting there Thursday night. Work got me a hotel that's close to downtown. Walking distance everywhere. I feel like Christmas. You remember that feeling that you got as a kid? Christmas or the 23rd when you're getting ready to go home from school. I don't get that feeling about Christmas, although Christ is king and all. But Oktoberfest, I do still get that feeling. That Wednesday, Thursday, you're in town. It's buzzing. You can feel the bars getting ready. My legs are shaking right now as I speak.
You can smell the alcohol. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can smell the booze. So I'll be thinking of you, my fellow Eagle. Are you going to the ballpark tonight?
Not tonight. I will be going tomorrow, though. So we'll see on the clinching situation. They need the Cubs to lose as well, and the Cubs are playing the Oakland A's. So we'll see how that goes. Could be a clinch tonight, could be tomorrow. We'll see.
Craig has never differentiated between good or a badder opponent. His teams play down to competition, up to competition. So, I hope for your sake it happens tomorrow. Gasper, I got to run. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Grant. Take care.
Take care. David Gasper, Reviewing the Brew. That was excellent. That was good. That was good Freelick content. I might have to clip that. Might put that on the internet for Brewers Twitter. Those psychos. Sal Freelick does something good. It's like, hey, how can we still drag him? Which entertains me. I don't know that it's fair, but sports aren't always fair, but they are, for the most part, always entertaining. 3 minutes. We'll wrap up the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Final segment, Wisco Sports Show, got about a minute. Appreciate David Gasper reviewing the brew. I hope for his sake they clinch tomorrow. I saw some people going down to the ballpark, some probably extra media people who are going down there just for the occasion, just in case they clinch. And that's fine. There's somewhat of a stigma. I heard this on certain sports talk radio shows today, that there are certain members of the media, certain radio people, not anyone in particular, but just saying in a general sense, that when big things happen at the ballpark, important things, people will start showing up. Whereas the Brewers beat, they've been there every day all summer, of course. Sometimes there's a little bit of a stigma with that. I only show up for meaningless games. That's how I operate. I only cover Badgers basketball when there's a WEAC school in town, and I only cover random Brewer games in July and June. That's the way I operate. I'll watch from home on my couch. Thank you very much if the Brewers clinch tonight. Freddie Peralta, or no, not Freddie Peralta. Who's going for the Brewers tonight? I always do this. I go to the end of the show and I don't have the lineup in front of me. Who is it tonight again? It's Montas. That's right. I knew that. Devin Williams already warming in the bullpen, I'm told. So well